If I told you that Iran, yes, the modern nation of Iran, plays a profound and pivotal role in the grand story of the Bible, would you believe me? When most people think about the Bible, their focus naturally lands on Israel, Egypt, or Babylon. But what if I told you that Iran, known as Persia in biblical times, was not just another ancient empire, but a divinely appointed instrument in fulfilling God's plans for his chosen people? The biblical story of Iran is far more compelling than you might imagine. From the descendants of Noah to the reign of Cyrus the Great, the history of the Iranian people intersects with some of the most extraordinary moments in the Bible. And the most astonishing part? God used Persia, a pagan kingdom with foreign kings, to rescue Israel, rebuild the temple, and fulfill prophecies spoken hundreds of years before. In this exploration, we will uncover how the Bible traces the origins of the Iranian people, their rise to power, and their surprising central role in shaping both the Old Testament narrative and prophetic visions for the future. Prepare yourself, what you're about to learn will forever change the way you view Iran, not as a mere modern nation, but as a key player in God's divine plan for humanity. To understand Iran's place in the Bible, we must go back to the story of Noah and his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. After the Great Flood, these three men became the ancestors of all the nations on earth. According to Genesis 10, one of Japheth's sons was Magi, the forefather of the Medes. The Medes later settled in the area we know today as Iran and became closely associated with the Persians, forming the foundation of the Medo-Persian Empire, one of the greatest empires in human history. Together, the Medes and Persians shaped the destiny of the region and shared a common Iranian lineage. This biblical connection ties the Iranian people to the earliest post-flood genealogies and places them at the heart of God's unfolding story. From these humble beginnings, Persia would rise to extraordinary prominence, becoming a tool in God's hand to carry out his will. Centuries after Noah, Persia emerged as a mighty kingdom under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Achaemenid Empire. At its height, the Persian Empire stretched from the Indus River in the east to North Africa in the west, encompassing many regions central to the Bible, including Israel, Babylon, and Egypt. Yet Persia's significance was not merely its vast territorial power. It was how God used this pagan empire to fulfill his divine promises. The story begins with the Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar, who conquered Jerusalem in 586 BC, destroyed the temple, and exiled the Jewish people. For 70 years, the Israelites lived in captivity in Babylon, just as the prophet Jeremiah had foretold. But then came Cyrus the Great, a man whose role was foretold by the prophet Isaiah over 150 years before his birth. In 539 BC, Cyrus conquered Babylon, and in an unprecedented move, issued a decree allowing the Israelites to return to their homeland and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This moment, recorded in Ezra 1 verses 1-4, is nothing short of miraculous. Cyrus declares, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah." Think about this. A pagan king, outside God's covenant, was called by name in Isaiah 44 verse 28 and described as my shepherd and his anointed one, Isaiah 45 verse 1. How could a foreign king bear such titles? It is a testament to God's sovereignty and his ability to use anyone, even those who do not know him, to fulfill his will. Cyrus's decree ended the Babylonian exile, allowing the Jews to return home and rebuild their sacred temple, fulfilling Jeremiah's prophecy and marking a monumental turning point in Israel's history. Through Persia, God restored his people, proving that no empire, no king, and no boundary can limit his plans. Persia's role in biblical history doesn't end with Cyrus. The story of Esther offers another stunning example of how God used the Persian Empire to protect his people from destruction. During the reign of King Xerxes I, Ahasuerus, a high-ranking official named Haman plotted to annihilate the Jewish people living throughout the Persian Empire. Haman's scheme was nearly unstoppable, as he manipulated the king into issuing a royal decree for their destruction. But God's providence was at work. Through a series of divine events, a young Jewish woman named Esther became queen of Persia. Encouraged by her cousin Mordecai, Esther risked her life to reveal her Jewish identity to the king and plead for her people. Mordecai's famous words to Esther in Esther 4 verse 14 resonate through the ages. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Because of Esther's courage, Haman's plot was exposed, the Jews were saved, and Haman himself was executed. This incredible deliverance is commemorated every year during the Jewish festival of Purim, a powerful reminder of how God used Persia to protect his people. The story of Esther demonstrates God's sovereign control over history. Once again, Persia, a pagan empire, became an instrument of divine protection and deliverance, ensuring the survival of God's chosen people, through whom the Messiah would one day come. What makes Persia's story in the Bible so remarkable is how God used this powerful pagan empire to accomplish his purposes. Through Cyrus the Great, God restored Israel after the exile. Through Queen Esther, he protected his people from annihilation. These events are not coincidences but evidence of God's sovereignty, his ability to orchestrate the rise and fall of nations to fulfill his divine plan. The legacy of Persia in the Bible is a powerful reminder that God's plans are unstoppable, and his purposes are not confined to any one nation or people. Whether through kings, queens, or empires, he can use anyone and anything to accomplish his will. So, the next time you think of Iran, remember this: it is not just a modern nation, but the heir to Persia, a kingdom that God used to shape the course of biblical history. Persia's story is proof that God's hand moves across time, weaving together nations and people to fulfill his promises. Iran's role in the Bible is far greater than we often realize, a testament to the boundless reach of God's sovereignty and his plan for redemption that spans the entire world. If I told you that Iran, the modern-day successor to ancient Persia, stands not only as a monumental force in biblical history, but also as a central player in the prophetic visions of the Bible's future, would you believe me? Most of us tend to focus on nations like Israel, Egypt, or Babylon when thinking about the Bible. Yet Persia, an empire rooted in today's Iran, played a divine role that transcended its power, politics, and borders, shaping God's plan for his people both in the past and in the days to come. From the visions of Daniel to the prophecies of Ezekiel, Persia's story is not merely history, it is prophecy in motion. It's a story of divine sovereignty, redemption, and a future foretold, where Iran remains a pivotal figure in the unfolding drama of the end times. The prophet Daniel, who served in both the Babylonian and Persian courts during the Jewish exile, was given extraordinary visions of the future. These visions not only unveiled Persia's rise to dominance, but also revealed its eventual fall as part of God's plan for the nations. In Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon dreams of a great statue with various parts representing successive world empires. The chest and arms of silver symbolize the Medo-Persian Empire, which would rise to power after Babylon's fall. This was no mere historical coincidence but part of God's sovereign timeline. Later, in Daniel 7, Daniel sees 4 beasts representing 4 great empires. The second beast, a bear raised up on one side, symbolizes the dual nature of the Medo-Persian Empire, 2 nations united in strength, yet unequal in influence. This empire, under kings like Cyrus the Great, would expand across the ancient world, transforming history forever. One of the most striking prophecies about Persia is found in Daniel 8, where a vision reveals a ram with 2 horns, one representing the Medes and the other the Persians. The ram charges forward, conquering vast lands and symbolizing the empire's unmatched dominance. But the vision continues. A goat with a prominent horn, representing Greece and its king, Alexander the Great, would rise to defeat Persia. These visions, spoken centuries before they occurred, remind us of a profound truth. Nations rise and fall by the will of God. Persia's prominence was not by chance but by divine decree. Its ascent, its purpose, and even its eventual decline were woven into God's sovereign plan. Even after its empire fell, Persia's influence extended into the time of the New Testament, connecting it to one of the most iconic moments in Christian history, the visit of the Magi. In Matthew 2, the Magi, often referred to as wise men, journeyed from the east to worship the newborn king of the Jews. Many scholars believe these Magi were Persian priests or astrologers, experts in the ancient religion of Zoroastrianism. This tradition prized celestial signs and omens, which may explain how they recognized the Star of Bethlehem as a divine signal of the Messiah's birth. The journey of the Magi is no small detail. It demonstrates that Persia's legacy endured far beyond its fall as an empire. Long after its political power had faded, Persia's wisdom, traditions, and scholars still pointed the world to the coming of Christ, the ultimate fulfillment of God's promises to humanity. While Persia's role in the Bible's past is extraordinary, its involvement in end-times prophecy is perhaps even more astonishing. Many theologians believe that Iran, the modern successor to Persia, will play a critical role in the final events of human history. In Ezekiel 38-39, the prophet describes a climactic battle involving an alliance of nations that will rise against Israel. Among these nations is Persia, a clear reference to modern Iran alongside Gog of Magog and other powers. This event, often called the Battle of Gog and Magog, is seen as a future confrontation where God himself intervenes to defend his people. While interpretations of this prophecy vary, one thing is clear: Persia's role is far from over. Its place in Ezekiel's vision highlights Iran's enduring significance as a geopolitical and spiritual force in the last days. The tension and alliances we see forming in the Middle East today echo the very events foretold thousands of years ago. Persia's story in the Bible is nothing short of breathtaking. From the visions of Daniel to the Magi's journey to Ezekiel's end-times prophecy, Persia stands as a testament to God's unmatched sovereignty. He raised up the Persian Empire to restore his people from exile, used its kings to fulfill his promises, and even ensured its legacy pointed to the birth of Christ. Yet, Persia's significance does not end in history. The prophetic visions of Ezekiel remind us that Iran will play a decisive role in the final chapter of God's plan for humanity. As we witness modern-day events in the Middle East, especially the growing tension between Iran and Israel, it becomes evident that history is not random. It is unfolding exactly as God has foretold. The rise and fall of empires, the movements of kings, and the shaping of nations are all under God's control. Persia, modern-day Iran, remains a living reminder of this truth. Its story demonstrates that God can use any nation, any leader, and any event, no matter how unexpected, to fulfill his ultimate purpose. The story of Persia is not simply a historical curiosity. It is a powerful reminder that God's plan spans the ages. From its origins in Genesis to its prominence in Daniel's visions, from the visit of the Magi to Ezekiel's end-times prophecies, Persia's role in the Bible is both extraordinary and prophetic. In a world where nations rise and fall, Persia's story reminds us that history is moving toward a divine conclusion. As we see events unfold in the Middle East today, we are witnessing not just political struggles but the hand of God shaping the destiny of nations. Iran, heir to ancient Persia, continues to hold a place of profound spiritual and prophetic significance. Its story is a testament to God's sovereignty, his faithfulness to his people, and his ultimate plan to redeem and restore the world. When viewed through the lens of Scripture, Iran is not just a nation of the past or present. It is a nation of prophecy, destined to play a role in the final chapters of God's redemptive plan for humanity.